Valerian. Valerian became emperor in 253 AD during one of Rome's worst crises. The empire was collapsing. Germanic tribes attacked from the north, and the Persian Empire ravaged the east. Valerian was an experienced general in his 60s, chosen to save Rome. He had some success against the Germanic invasions, but the Eastern Front was a disaster. The Persian king had been destroying Roman provinces in Syria and Asia Minor. In 260 AD, Valerian marched east with a large army to confront the Persians near Edessa. What happened next is disputed, but the result was catastrophic. Valerian was captured alive, becoming the first and only Roman emperor ever taken prisoner by a foreign enemy. It was the ultimate humiliation for Rome. The Persian king used him as a trophy. According to reports, whenever the king wanted to mount his horse, he forced Valerian to kneel on all fours and used the Roman emperor as a human footstool, stepping on his back to climb onto his horse. Valerian spent the rest of his life as a prisoner, and his own son, the new emperor, never tried to rescue or ransom him. When Valerian finally died in captivity, his humiliation continued. Persian sources claim the king ordered Valerian's body skinned. The skin was then stuffed with straw and dyed red. This grotesque trophy was displayed in a Persian temple for decades as a warning to Rome. Commodus. Commodus believed he was the reincarnation of Hercules. He became emperor in 180 AD at age 18, and unlike his father Marcus Aurelius, one of Rome's greatest emperors, Commodus had no interest in ruling. Instead, he was obsessed with being a gladiator. He fought in the Colosseum over 700 times, killing ostriches, lions, and elephants with spears. Gladiators were ordered to fight him with wooden swords while he used real blades, ensuring he always won. He wore a lion skin and carried a club like Hercules. He even renamed Rome after himself, calling it Colonia Commodiana, and expected the Senate to worship him as a god. Paranoia eventually consumed him, leading to mass eliminations of anyone he suspected of disloyalty. By December 192 AD, the people closest to him had decided he had to go. His mistress, his chamberlain, and the head of the Praetorian Guard formed a plot. On December 31st, they served him poisoned wine, hoping he would die quietly in his sleep. But Commodus vomited up the poison. The conspirators panicked. If he recovered, he would execute them all. They sent for a wrestler called Narcissus, a massive man who trained with Commodus. The wrestler entered the emperor's bath chamber, where Commodus lay weak and disoriented from the poison. The wrestler grabbed him by the throat and strangled him to death in the water. The emperor, who saw himself as Hercules, died not in glorious combat, but murdered in his own bath. The Senate immediately ordered his name erased from all official records. Caligula. Caligula became emperor in 37 AD at age 24. At first, Romans loved him, but after a severe illness, he changed completely. He became paranoid, sadistic, and possibly insane. Caligula declared himself a living god and demanded to be worshipped. Allegedly, he even planned to make his favorite horse a consul, one of Rome's highest political positions. He executed people for entertainment, confiscated their wealth, and threw lavish parties that bankrupted the treasury. One of his favorite targets was a Praetorian Guard officer named Cassius Chaerea. Caligula constantly mocked him with sexual insults, gave him humiliating passwords, and ridiculed his voice. Chaerea's hatred grew with every insult. By January 41 AD, a conspiracy had formed. On January 24, during a series of games, Caligula left the theater through an underground passage. Chaerea and the other conspirators were waiting. In the narrow corridor, they ambushed him. Chaerea struck first, slashing Caligula across the shoulder. Caligula fell screaming, "I am still alive." But the others closed in and stabbed him repeatedly. By the time they finished, he had been stabbed 30 times. His wife and infant daughter were hunted down and eliminated shortly after. Julius Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar was Rome's most powerful general and dictator by 44 BC. After conquering Gaul and winning a civil war, he controlled the entire Roman Republic. He reformed the calendar, expanded citizenship, and held absolute power. But many senators feared he would declare himself king, ending the republic forever. Over 60 senators formed a conspiracy to assassinate him. They chose March 15th as the date. That morning, Caesar's wife begged him not to go to the Senate after having nightmares of his doom. A fortune teller also warned him to beware of the Ides of March. Caesar didn't want to go at first, but a conspirator persuaded him. This was a fatal mistake. When he arrived at the Senate meeting, the conspirators surrounded him under the pretense of presenting a petition. Suddenly, one senator stabbed him in the neck. The others closed in with daggers. Caesar tried to fight back, but he was overwhelmed by the number of attackers. He was stabbed 23 times, blood pooling across the marble floor. Caesar pulled his toga over his head, stopped resisting, and collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue. He bled to death on the Senate floor. The assassins believed they had saved the Republic. Instead, Caesar's death triggered brutal civil wars that ended with his heir becoming the first emperor. The Republic was dead, and the empire had begun. Nero. Nero became emperor in 54 AD at age 16. His mother had allegedly poisoned the previous emperor to put him on the throne. For the first few years, Nero was guided by advisors and Rome prospered. But as he grew older, he revealed his true nature. Nero eliminated his own mother in 59 AD after she became too controlling. A few years later, he kicked his pregnant wife to death during an argument. Then came the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, which destroyed much of the city. Rumors spread that Nero had started it to clear land for his new golden palace. To deflect blame, he blamed Christians and burned them alive as human torches. Nero also believed he was a great artist. He forced senators to watch him sing and act on stage. But Nero's biggest problem was his ego. He spent more time performing than governing, and Romans grew tired of his madness. By 68 AD, revolts erupted across the empire. The army abandoned him, and the Senate declared him an enemy of the state. Nero fled Rome and hid in a villa outside the city. On June 9, 68 AD, soldiers closed in to arrest him. Nero tried to end himself but couldn't. Weeping, he ordered his secretary to help him. As the soldiers entered, Nero stabbed himself in the throat with his secretary guiding his hand. His last words were, "What an artist dies in me." He was 30 years old. His death ended his dynasty and plunged Rome into civil war. Elagabalus. Elagabalus became emperor in 218 AD at age 14. His grandmother had orchestrated his rise by falsely claiming he was the son of a previous emperor. He was completely unprepared to rule, and it showed immediately. Elagabalus was a priest of a Syrian sun god, and he tried to make Rome worship his deity. But what shocked Romans most was his personal behavior. He married a Vestal virgin, which was forbidden and punishable by death. He held extravagant feasts where he allegedly smothered guests with flowers until they suffocated. He ignored all government business, spent fortunes on parties, and openly disrespected Roman traditions. The Praetorian Guard, the Senate, and even his own grandmother turned against him. By 222 AD, his grandmother decided to replace him with his cousin, a more stable 13-year-old boy. When Elagabalus discovered the plot, he tried to have his cousin erased, but the Praetorian Guard refused to obey. On March 11, 222 AD, the Praetorian Guard stormed the palace. Elagabalus and his mother tried to hide, but the soldiers found them and ended them both on the spot. They dragged Elagabalus's body through the streets of Rome while crowds cheered and spat on it. Finally, they threw his corpse into the Tiber River. Some accounts say they threw him into the city's sewer first. Either way, they wanted no trace of him left in Rome. The teenage emperor who shocked Rome was dumped like trash. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more stories like this, or suggest which topic I should cover next in the comments.